Q&A, your daily coffee Q&A here, 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, most days here on the Onocoffee channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Jake, blah, 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 blah. So today, I'm still on the road, but I thought I'd bring to you something that I found when I was on a trip to New England a couple years ago. On the way, when I'm traveling places, I like to go to visit the local supermarkets or the local markets or something, just to see what's interesting and what's fresh and what's available in that part of the world that I happen to be in. And so one of the things I found while I was in Rhode Island was this thing, the Eclipse coffee syrup. And if you're not familiar with this, and I certainly wasn't, and I had no idea what it was until I bought this. Actually, I had no idea what it was until this week when I really started to read more about it in preparation for this. Good morning to you, Mom. In Rhode Island, I'm going to say that maybe Rhode Island can make the claim that they have the most coffee consumption per capita in the United States than the rest of the country, because these guys drink coffee evidently more than Seattle, evidently more than, Portland, Oregon, and all those other places where there's coffee's really big. Like, those states may sell more coffee overall by volume because they're just such larger states with greater populations, but probably on a per capita basis, these guys in Rhode Island, this little teeny tiny state up in New England, they're crazy about this kind of stuff. And so what's the history behind this coffee syrup? So coffee syrup started in the 20th century, right around 1932, when a company called Silmo came out with a coffee syrup. And they started making something called coffee milk. The history of Rhode Island says that the coffee milk really had its origins with Italian immigrants, right? However, in 1932, when the Silmo company came out, they were actually based in New Bedford, Massachusetts, which is across the border. Like, if you're driving on 95, if I remember correctly, New Bedford is just right at the state line through, there's Providence and then Pawtucket and then New Bedford. It's like all like together, right? So it's really kind of part, in many respects, I guess you could say it's part of the Rhode Island scene. But Silmo is actually a conglomeration of names by these two guys that joined together. I forgot their exact names. However, I do have a link down in the description below that really gives more details on all of this. But these two guys are actually Portuguese, and I figured that out because the one guy's name is De Souza, and there's no Italians named De Souza as far as I know. So they started in 1932. Then in 1936, there was another company called Eclipse. And then by 1938, I think it was a company called Autocrat that came out. And these have been the three top selling coffee syrup brands in Rhode Island for the last 100-some years, or almost 100 years. Devin, what's going on to you, man? How are you? Good to see you. Now, these guys, so over the years, and people are drinking coffee syrup, and eventually, through a series of purchases and all this, eventually Autocrat, the company Autocrat, or the company that is still Autocrat today, came to purchase all of the other brands. So Silmo and Eclipse are all owned by Autocrat. So basically, Autocrat controls probably, 99% of the coffee syrup market in Rhode Island. But in 1991, they were able to campaign the Senate of Rhode Island to make this, by 1993, the official state drink of Rhode Island. Hola to you, Peter. How's it going, man? And I picked this up because I saw this at the grocery store, and I was like, what is this coffee syrup? Let's get this and make a video about it. But that was like 2 years ago. And so now, finally, I found the time to make a video and bring it to you here, coffee syrup called Eclipse. Now, if you go to Rhode Island, and I didn't know this, but as I've been reading about it more, if you talk to Rhode Island people, this outsells pretty much everything. Chocolate milk, everything. It outsells it all. So we're going to get into it and find out just how good it is. And it's fairly simple. Basically coffee, a concentrated coffee that has been brewed very thickly or, very heavily, and then they mix it with sugar. This one particularly has typical commercialized stuff, right? I don't know if it'll show it. If I cover my face, maybe it'll zoom in better. Anyway, so it has high fructose corn syrup, coffee extract, caramel color, and potassium sorbate, and some sulfites in order to keep it all shelf stable. Because like this one, Oh yeah, see this one. It actually says sell by something in 2013, 2023, July 17th, 2023. So we're about a year old. But you know what? This kind of stuff has never been opened, so it's very shelf stable. Now I got a couple ingredients for us to get. So today we're going to make something called the coffee milk. We're also going to make something called coffee cabinet. We'll get into that more. But I went by the Whole Foods that's not too far from my brother's house and found this thing called Homestead Creamery. Homestead Creamery is a creamery down from the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, not West Virginia, but Virginia, in a place called Burnt Chimney, Virginia. And okay, so let's be honest. So at Sprout, I like to work with the milks of this quality. This, being that it is a commercialized manufactured product, high fructose corn syrup with all these other additives and made from coffee extract rather than actually brewed coffee. So the company's probably buying a coffee extract from a flavoring manufacturer that is formulating coffee extract to their flavor specifications, which is not an uncommon thing in the beverage world. But I would have to say that this, or this milk, is not the equivalent of this syrup. So we're using really high quality milk with a very commercialized syrup product. But you know what? We're not going to worry too much about that. We're just going to go with it. But I was like, should I buy like more commercialized milk? Of course, it's only Whole Foods near my brother's house. So I would have to go a lot further away to a regular grocery store. And I was just like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm going to take the band off. And you know, you're going to probably put a deposit on this. Oh, and you're supposed to shake it, right? Because this is the cream line type. I think this is cream line style milk, or maybe it's not. Maybe it is homogenized. Is it homogenized? Rinse and return for deposit, no harder. I'm sure it's homogenized. So what the difference is, homogenization actually takes the milk, the cream line milk, that would be, you know, the cream where it separates. Actually, they push it through this pressurized screen that essentially takes the cream that would separate out, and they shear it or emulsify it into the liquid milk so that it never falls out of solution. And that's what homogenization means. Pasteurization, of course, is a separate process where they heat the milk to like 160 degrees or whatever the specification is, and do that for so many seconds before chilling it down. And what that does, it just kills off the bacteria. So we're gonna have a little glass. Now, most of the time you're gonna get like a big tall glass, but since I've never had this and I would hate to waste it, I'm not gonna make such a big tall glass. So let's just do that much, okay? Now, there is a recipe, 8 ounces of milk, yeah, to 2 tablespoons of syrup, right? Is that right? Yeah, 2 tablespoons of syrup to 8 ounces of coffee milk. Now, this does have, see fresh, but let's shake, because I've seen some videos online where it looked kind of thin. Maybe we need to make sure that it's shook well. Sometimes these things do not cooperate. Now, to be honest with you, I'm not really, I don't think I'm really a coffee, the idea of coffee milk sounds kind of gross to me. Like, I think that's kind of nasty, the idea. Then I was reading these articles that people are like, yeah, but they love to have, Rhode Islanders love to go to places and like that are like soda jerk pharmacy type places that have things like fried wieners, like, you know, fried hot dogs on a bun and all this. And they drink it with the coffee milk. And I'm like, that just, I don't know, the idea of drinking milky product with savory foods just does not sound so appealing to me. Now, I don't know why I say that, because you know what? The idea of milkshakes with cheeseburgers is not exactly disgusting, but I don't know why this idea of coffee milk sounds kind of gross. And they do make it quite serious for the sealing of this. I don't know if it's just the seal of the lid, or perhaps because it's taken me 2 years to get to it, maybe it's more stuck than ever. Okay, let's take that off. I'm going to put a little dispensing cap back on. Now I've got the stickiness on my fingers. So we got our tablespoon. It is kind of a runny product. So one. If I spill her on the floor, my sister-in-law will be all like, what are you doing? Okay, so there's one. This is probably about 4 ounces. So let's try that. That should be about the right ratio. I'm gonna stir it up. Gets a little bit of coloration. Now I'm hoping for, Michael, how are you, man? Good to see you. It's not coming off the spoon very easily, but I'm hoping for some goodness out of this, right? Hopefully it's not too bitter. Hopefully it's not terrible coffee, right? I went to this place for breakfast this morning, and they were using this famous coffee company from Philadelphia, and the brewed coffee, it's about what I expected from that brand. Okay, so have a look here. Let's see. There it is. Kind of brownish, you know, kind of looks like coffee ice cream. So, cheers. Or like Emmy Maid likes to say, itadakimasu. Lightly sweet, lightly coffee, but not really. The coffee's not very well pronounced, right? Actually, I think that's kind of not pronounced enough. So let's do another tablespoon. So we've got this small amount. It's about 4 or 5 ounces. Now we've got 2 tablespoons. So we're twice the dosage that is recommended by the label. Now here's something. What I see from people that were posting online that are from Rhode Island, Rhode Islanders, they're like, you put it in, you put the milk in, then you add the syrup, and then you taste it, and then you add more syrup as necessary. So this is double the strength that they recommend on the bottle. Huh. This is actually fun and tasty and sweet. No real bitterness, just, and actually not really much of a discernible coffee flavor. Like when I think of coffee, like let's say a milky coffee, let's say I take coffee and I add cream and sugar to it, I'm expecting something a little bit more coffee. This is not so much like that. This is very mild. It's very approachable. Like if you imagine how Nesquik is kind of mild as a chocolate drink, gosh, I can see why this has supplanted Nesquik and, you know, and all that chocolate milk in Rhode Island, because actually that's pretty good. Huh. It's not the gross thing I was expecting. Now here's the interesting thing. Now I'd be interested to try. Like, if I was to put shots of espresso, now I know of course this is already coffee. There is probably caffeine in it. But I put shots of espresso and then steamed it like a coffee milk latte. Or I guess I could just steam it like this. Actually, it's kind of chug-a-luggable. That's interesting. That's interesting. All right, so the next thing we're going to try is what they called coffee cabinet. Let me go get this for you. Now, I've probably made the mistake of not leaving this out, but I was at Whole Foods looking at the stuff there, looking to find some local ice cream company, maybe like the Charmery or Taharka's or anyone that's local here. They had nothing. I'm like, come on, man, this is Whole Foods. What the hell, man? You guys are supposed to be like this gourmet fancy place, and you got none of the local. You got Jenny's, you got Van Leeuwen's and all that. And I'm like, Jenny's is cool, Ohio, and Van Leeuwen's, typical New York. Everyone's like, I love New York stuff, whatever. So I got this, McConnell's. This is from Santa Rosa, California, I think. Is that right? Santa Rosa. I do have a link for it in the description down below, but this is their LL Lockhead, RR Lockhead Vanilla Bean. What does that mean? I don't know. Sourced from Madagascar Farms. Because the vanilla revolutionary guru, R.R. Lockhead, which I guess he's some guy, Santa Barbara, not Santa Rosa, my apologies. Santa Barbara is totally different than Santa Rosa, like hundreds of miles difference. So we're going to try this. We're going to make it into, you can see the beans, that's kind of nice. Now, luckily, my brother has a NutriBullet here, so I'm going to use the NutriBullet. Let us go over here to the and we're just going to take, I forgot to look if they have any kind of coffee scooper, ice cream scooper. So we're just going to take some ice cream, right? And put that in here. Now, typically, I typically prefer to use, what do they call it? A stick blender, not a stick blender, but a spindle blender, right? The spindle blenders I like better. Oh, there's no, even though it's been sitting frozen, it's actually got nice texture. Put that in there. So, one thing to make clear, the cabinet is actually a milkshake. Why do they call it cabinet? Is because in the pharmacies where they had the soda jerks, they would actually keep the blender in a cabinet. So that's why they call it. So every time they wanted to make this, they had to go to the cabinet to get the blender. And that meant, okay, let's do, you know what, we're going to do 3 tablespoons. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Because there's going to be some stuck on the spoon. So here's our coffee syrup. We don't want to lose that. I'm going to add just a little bit right there. Boom. That's probably good, right? Add that on here. Now, only the reason I said I like to use the spindles is just because that's traditionally more okay, I don't know if that's too much or too little blending. Like, you shouldn't blend it too much. Like, I want it to be a little bit thicker. All right, that's probably too thin. Yeah, I would like it to be thicker than that. So we've got definitely more coffee syrup in this glass than we had in this, right? And then, is that better or worse? I don't know. But let's do some tasting. Whoops. All right, here we go. Here we go. Oh, maybe a little bit too much that time. It's a little bit on the sweeter side. But it's a milkshake. How much can you dislike a milkshake? Now now that we're with a higher concentration of the syrup, I'm starting to get more of the coffee character to come out of it. A little bit of that bitterness is starting to show through. So, but the problem with that is that you're getting a lot of the coffee character. However, you're also getting a lot more sweetness, which I would prefer to have this kind of coffee forward flavor with the 3.5 tablespoons but only have maybe 2 tablespoons. Is that working now? How does that sound now? Sorry about that. Let me know if you got the. Is the sound on now? Okay, good. The, Someone was calling on the phone, and like, oh gosh, every time someone calls on the phone, it just kind of makes this whole like thing. But like I was saying, so this sweet, 3.5 tablespoons. I like the coffee presence, but I think it's almost cloyingly sweet. Right? At 2 per 4 ounces, this has at 2 per 4 ounces, this has nice light sweetness, but not enough coffee forwardness, right? So nice light sweetness, but not enough coffee forwardness, right? So if you could, so if I was to try to make this, making my own syrups out of it, I would want to have this level of extraction with this level of sweet. Because this is, plus you also have to take into consideration that I'm also using vanilla ice cream in here to make the coffee cabinet. And that's ice cream's also adding sweetness to it. But you know what? Yeah, like this is very sweet. This is nice sweetness, but not enough coffee. This could have less sweetness, but the good coffee. And surprisingly enough, the coffee flavor itself is not offensive. Most of the time, well, maybe nowadays I should say, a lot of the times in modern times, when you have coffee flavored stuff or coffee stuff in general, it's bitter and it's dirty and it's kind of rough and not so pleasant to drink, or flavor wise the experience is not so pleasant. This is actually surprisingly pleasant, which I would never have expected from a commercial product by, random companies in New England. You would think that they'd be buying the cheapest quality coffee possible, and maybe they are, but they found a way, or maybe their extract companies, just because due to the nature of extraction, of making coffee extracts, maybe they're, well, I don't know if that's even true. Maybe they're synthesizing the flavor. Because years ago, I was invited to visit McCormick's Innovation Labs, and the guys there were like, hey, we want to show you how these gas chromatographs work. So there's gas chromatographs, and evidently there's even like matter chromatographs, where you basically feed in the product into this machine, and what it does, it analyzes and generates this whole, like, not really a curve, but basically a bar graph, that shows how much of every chemical compound is in, let's say, strawberry. And they were showing me this, and they were like, yeah, so these are the different components and the different quantities of each chemical that makes up this particular strawberry, for example, or let's say coffee. And I was like, so how do you make artificial flavoring? And so artificial flavorings we make artificial flavoring by looking at the different quantities. And some of them are like, let's say there's maybe, let's just say for a hypothetical discussion, there's 25 compounds in a flavor. Some have really large quantities, but a good portion of those will have very minute amounts of those chemicals or those compounds. Now, if you buy compounds, like just the actual like compounds themselves, it's wild. Some of them are wildly expensive, right? Like, you're hundreds and thousands of dollars, or hundreds or thousands of dollars per like pint, right? And you're only going to use a little teeny tiny amount. So if you're buying all of these, it gets very expensive. So what they do for artificial flavoring is that they're looking at these different compounds in the different quantities, and they're picking them out, and they're trying to use that. So in 25, let's say in an example of 25 compounds to make up this one flavor, if they use all 25 compounds in those ratios, it would be probably prohibitively expensive. However, if they can figure out how to use 10 of those compounds and approximate that flavor, that's pretty much how they make artificial flavorings, which kind of made me wonder, like back then, it's like, if we believe the science that all flavors and fruits and stuff are just chemicals, right? Chemical compositions of different compounds. If we're using those same chemicals to synthesize a flavor, is it still actually artificial, or is it actually natural? Perhaps it wasn't naturally grown, but is it truly a synthetic product? I don't know. That's something for other people or yourself to decide for yourself what you believe. But it did kind of make me wonder, like, it challenged my belief, it challenged my assertion that if it's made in a lab, of course it's synthetic, but maybe there's an argument that it might not be, right? So just some thoughts on that. All right, well, I guess that's it gonna be for today. Eclipse coffee syrup. Surprisingly not what I was expecting to experience. It's way better than what I was expecting. I was expecting something truly horrid. But actually quite pleasant. Like, okay, this one with the, it's way too sweet. Like, the more I've eaten, the sweetness I've done unenjoyable. Peter says, I watch your mocha pot video and have a mocha pot collection. You think you can use milk instead of water to extract the coffee in a mocha? Here's the thing that I would be concerned about for the mocha would be, and this is something I don't know, I'm going to hypothesize on this. Could there be some kind of reaction between the aluminum mocha pot and the milk itself? That potentially, I don't believe that's really an issue, because I do believe they store milk in aluminum tanks, so that's probably not an issue. The other thing is about, as you're heating the milk in the mocha pot, will it denature the milk? Will it change the way it flavors? Will it scald the milk, right? If you're boiling it, chances are it'll probably scald, because when we use water, we're boiling it to the point so that it's forcing the water that's in here through the basket, right? Through the stem and the basket into the upper chamber. Now, I would be concerned that it would scald the milk, and that would just damage the flavor of your beverage. Now, the other side of it is, no one says you have to boil it, right? We're just talking about heating it to push it through. Now, you may have to experiment with that, right? That might be worthy of exploration, right? So you're taking, like yesterday, we boiled the water and then added the two components and then continued the boil and allowed it to brew. If we were just to take this, if we took this, put cold water in here, put the coffee in here, sealed it up, and slowly started, and then everything is cold, and then added heat to it. As the liquid would heat, it would start to generate pressure, which would push the liquid through the coffee bed and into the upper chamber. Now, I don't know at what temperature it would have to reach for that to happen, but I'm theorizing that you probably could brew it. It may do something, and the fact that you're pushing it through the coffee, like since it's a lower temperature, the extraction won't be as robust, but it will have some level of extraction. So I don't know. Maybe it's worth exploration. Give it a try. Give it a try. Give it a try. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? I mean, like I said, it's unlikely that there is going to be a chemical reaction between the two. I don't think that's really an issue. I'm just spitballing now that could be a possible issue to be at least to investigate before you do that. But I think that as you heat it, it will push the milk through the coffee into the upper chamber, and you will be able to get some kind of brew. Will it be a brew that you really enjoy? I don't know. Yeah. All right. There it is, coffee syrup. A little bit about the mocha pot. Oh, I thought I'd give you guys an update too as well on beginning of the week. We were doing the coffee extract, right, for the kohi mizuwari, and so I took that and we poured it in on the pound of coffee, that bottle of 7-year Caña Fuerte, and basically it just kind of soaked up. Like it was 1 pound and 1 bottle was basically volumetrically equivalent, and basically it most of that alcohol was absorbed into the coffee itself, the dry coffee. So I put that onto a jar and I was like, okay, this is not working. I need to go get some more 7-year Caña Fuerte. So I drove over to, yesterday I went over to Total Wine, where I got it from before. And turns out it looks like it's being discontinued. They're no longer carried. They don't have any in stock, and now I'm totally like hosed. So I bought a couple bottles of this other rum that's very much on the staff enthusiasm list. I forgot the name of the brand. I'm gonna start another batch with that. Same procedure, same quantities. But for the batch that we started, I did take that other bottle of the 4-year, added that to it. Now we've got 1,500 milliliters of rums, but they're 2 different vintages, right? One is 7, one is 4. So there is a slight, flavor difference. I don't know how that's going to affect it, but we're going to find out in about a month or so. And then maybe today or tomorrow, I'm going to start the other batch with this other rum, just to, as a bit more controlled, right? And so hopefully that'll be something worthwhile drinking. But I'll follow up more on that. But now that right now we're a pound per 1,500 milliliters. All right. That's the update on that. All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. That's it for today. We're back again tomorrow with a little more coffee Q&A. If you're interested in more coffee talk, a little bit, but more cigar talk, it's Thursday. So Thursday night, 8 p.m. on the Ono Live channel is our coffee and cigars live stream. So tonight we're going to be smoking this cigar called the El Regalo that I picked up when I was in San Diego. So come join us then if you're free, 8 p.m. Eastern time on the Ono Live channel, not on this channel, but the Ono Live channel. I'll have the link to that established a little bit later today. But Mom, see you as well. Good tonight. Peter and Devin, good to see all of you guys. Michael, hope you guys have a wonderful day out there, and see you next time.